everybody. Welcome back to the Boss Rush Spotlight Podcast, the developer and creator interview series by Boss Rush. I am your host, Stephanie Klimov, and alongside me today, I have my partner in crime, the boss man himself, Corey Dierig.
Hello, it's weird doing one of these in the middle of the day.
Yay, break it up, right?
Yeah,
and
needs it, right?
And also, I've got my power buddy, Pat PK Power. Hey.
I am glad people from my work don't listen to my podcast. Otherwise, they'd know I'd be working during the daytime right now.
Same here. I have a block off on my calendar, and all it says is "Do not disturb." I won't say what. But it is very, very, very worth it for the guest that we have today, the creator of the hit indie game Animal Well, Billy Basso. Welcome.
Hello, happy to be here.
Yes, thank you for coming on. We were very fortunate enough to meet you at PAX this year, both East and West, but I know a lot has happened since then. This is a very big year for you.
Yeah, it's probably easy. It's pretty easy to say it's like the biggest year of my life. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So far,
you're right.
Yeah, so far, I have to say that.
So I do imagine once you get to the Video Game Awards and, you win your big indie game of the year, it's going to be huge.
I'm trying to like keep my expectations low for that kind of stuff. I'm already happy enough.
Oh, there you go. But yeah, so for anyone that's been living under a rock, Billy, just give maybe a one or two liner about who you are and about Animal Well.
So it's Animal Well's a game I worked on for about 7 years and just recently released this past May. It's like a pixel art Metroidvania, but that kind of maybe doesn't describe it all too well. You play as like a little seed ball character, and you explore this like kind of subterranean garden well environment. It's all very mysterious and ambiguous, and there's animals everywhere and lots of puzzles and secrets. And I worked on it pretty much by myself. It's the first game published by Big Mode, the video game donkey publisher, which drew a lot of attention towards it. And it came out and the launch went very well, and just been kind of living my life post Animal Well launch.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think the way you described it is kind of the best way. Whenever people ask me about Animal Well, because I keep recommending it for other games people should play that aren't like, your AAA gets advertised everywhere. It's hard to put into words because there's several layers to the game, and it's one of the few titles that I just would feel really horrible pigeonholing to like one or two genres or categories. So I'm glad you mentioned that way. For those out there, you most likely have seen Animal Well presented at various showcases. Even Boss Rush wrote a mostly spoiler-free review on it as well. Any high-level comments from you, Pat and Corey, before we get into the gauntlet?
No, I gotta say, like, the pixel art is very top quality in this game. Just even the pixel effects that happen, like, for example, the explosion effects are like really, really cool. Oh. It's eye candy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know Stephanie and Pat have played a lot more of it than I have. I bought it 2 weeks ago to play it because I knew we were going to interview you, and I've been wanting to play it for a while. But it's incredibly charming. The art style, I'm a sucker for that art style. I know pigeonholing it into a Metroidvania is kind of like really surface level stuff, but like all the secrets and all the cool things that you can find and figure out on your own, and the big thing is like, don't spoil this game for me. And that's really strange to say for a game that looks and plays like this usually, right? Like a Metroidvania is usually just like, oh, it's a maze and you need to go find the thing to unlock this thing, and so you can go do the next thing. But it's like there's so much to this game that I've listened to a ton of podcasts talk about this game, and I'm still finding stuff that's like, I didn't hear anybody talk about this. I didn't see this. It's it's incredibly ambitious for you made this game essentially by yourself, you know, aside from probably the finishing touches and some publisher type stuff, but like this
Yeah,
is an amazing thing for one person.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the player base has been very like sort of respectful of each other with spoilers. So you know, a lot of the sort of coverage the game has got has been, you know, very careful about that. And people in our Discord and on Reddit or that use the spoiler tags like very in a very disciplined way. And yeah, I'm happy to see that people are kind of really understand that's like the appeal.
Good. I feel it's super important. And speaking of podcast, Corey, I do want to shout out our friend Dave Jackson from Tales of the Backlog. He recorded an episode for Animal Well with our friend Jenny Wyndham, Kim Chica, Wholesome Games. So I haven't listened to that yet because I'm saving it so when I can like sit and fully pay attention to it.
You're a bad fan. I'm telling Dave, you haven't listened to it yet.
No, because I want to do this first. And the best thing about Tales of the Backlog is they have a very distinct marker between spoilers. So if you haven't played it yet, but you want to hear about it, there's like the first half of the podcast that talks just all around it. And then the second half is spoiler. So just shout out to that group over there.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So Pat, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Well, no. But I will just say one more thing that I really liked about the game is that it's very intuitive. You know, for a game that doesn't give you any direction whatsoever, you just kind of like, all right, here you go, you know, off into the world to explore. I like the fact that the puzzles make you think, but, you know, they're not like impossible like some of these indie games can get when they become puzzle heavy. Is like you really have to think outside the box, and you do occasionally with yours, but you know, it's easy to figure out, and you just feel really good when you figure out your puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, thanks. I feel like I tried to make it so there was like a gradual on ramp to like kind of everything in the game, and I don't know. I feel like I see a lot of games that are very eager to get into like the advanced like movement tech or like these like really complicated systems, but they kind of forget to like introduce everything like one by one. So they're almost just like it's like the original Mario 2 where it's just like all the really hard levels, and it's like, okay, this is only for people that played the very first game and you just want more stuff. I feel like some games feel like that out of the box.
Yeah, one thing I want to say too is like I never feel lost, which is rare for me in a Metroidvania. I like the act of exploring feels really nice and natural, and like I'm not stressing out because I'm running around in circles trying to figure out where the next thing is, right? It's just very laid back, it feels, and it's very nice for someone who stresses out about a lot of things.
I was going to say, not like Metroid Dread, right?
Shut up. I don't want to talk about it.
All right, fine. I won't talk about it. All right, let's move on to the gauntlet. The gauntlet's just a series of fun, nonsensical, non-serious questions just to break the ice, and then we'll hit the fan questions because we definitely got a lot of good ones.
Okay.
Billy and everyone else, chime in. What's your ideal form of caffeination, if any, especially during development? Coffee, tea, soda?
For me, it's definitely caffeine. I feel like tea's probably the healthier one, or probably no caffeine at all is probably what a true healthy person should have. But yeah, I mean, my morning ritual all throughout development was like, first thing I do is like go in the kitchen and like make a pot of coffee, and then like go sit down at my desk once it's ready, and probably have like 3 cups throughout the day. Yeah, but I've also been recently reading a new book called like Why We Sleep, and that's kind of terrifying me because it's all it's like going into all the more recent science about like what happens while we're sleeping and like REM sleep and pretty much like it's like the most important aspect of our health, and pretty much influences like all these like mental disorders you can have, and depression and like weight gain and just cognitive ability on pretty much on like every level, and like your immune system. So and also caffeine like messes with that by like blocking the like melatonin like receptors. So now I'm like I'm like thinking more carefully about when I have coffee. I'm still been having it just as much, but I'm like feeling bad about it. That I'm like stunting my growth.
I'm gonna level with you. I stopped caring about my caffeine intake about 6 years ago, and my daughter was born.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like having a kid is like one of the most brutal sleep challenges you can undergo.
Yeah, it's not. If you are a sleeper, it is not great,
Mm.
but it's fine. Caffeine exists for a reason now.
Yeah.
So.
When are you most productive? Are you a morning bird or a night owl?
For me, it's the morning. It's particularly like kind of like the first 4 hours after I wake up, kind of before lunch. That's when I think my head is like the clearest, and um, I haven't like talked to anyone yet throughout the day, so it's kind of like it's like a blank slate. I can sit down and focus, and I haven't been distracted by anything yet. And then I think I slowly get more tired and like antsy as the day goes on.
I agree. I might not like waking up early or in the morning, but I got to tell you, I'm usually really efficient before people start harassing me, and then I get all over the place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pat, are you a morning person or you a night owl? I know Corey's a night
Me,
owl. That kid never sleeps.
I used to be a night owl, and then I got a 9 to 5 job,
Mm,
and that really changed my schedule to being more of a morning person. And now I look forward to the days when I can get to bed by 9 o'clock.
mm. Oh. All right. Vacation. Would you rather choose something that's ocean or beach, mountains or forest or city?
Mm. I don't know. I kind of think beaches are overrated. Uh, they're nice for a little bit, but like some people like fantasize about just spending the whole day like
You mean just lying there
just
getting your
lying
skin
there, and that
fried?
that sounds like stressful to me. I feel like
Hmm.
I need to be doing something. Um, Maybe going hiking through some mountains sounds pretty nice, and then I don't know I always like a cool city. I went to Tokyo last year,
Nice.
and that was amazing. That's like one of the best cities I think you can go to, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So so yeah, want to maybe probably city if I had to pick, but I'm
Mm.
I'm open to some good mountain forest area.
Tokyo is amazing. I loved going there, and my goal, I don't know if it'll happen. I want to take my kid to Kyoto next year to visit the Nintendo Museum,
Oh
but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah,
yeah. I saw
Kyoto is my dream location. That's if I can get out of the country at least once in my life, I want to hit up Kyoto just because it's got all the temples, it's got the old style as well as some of the new style going on with Japanese culture.
Mm.
I think it's got to be pretty sweet.
Yeah, the Nintendo Museum looks amazing. I watched like their video about it where Miyamoto gives a
Hmm.
tour. It was kind of funny though. They have all these cool exhibits where you can kind of play these like sort of in-person novelty games they set up, and
Hmm.
Miyamoto like it was pretty rigged. He like was playing against other Nintendo employees and won like every single time, and, and they just like clapped for him.
Yep.
It was like kind of
It's like,
funny.
come on, Miyamoto, you can't lie to us. We know you can even operate this Wiimote for the sword and Skyward Sword.
Can you imagine all the cuts that it took? Stop! You gotta let Miyamoto win. My job is on the line.
Yeah, you would think he would like I don't know, want to humanize himself a little bit, but like no, he's the best gamer. He's the
Hmm.
best designer, and he's the best still playing
Yep.
them.
All right. I've been getting this question a lot just because people like asking this question. And wasn't it a recent, like within this year, After Dark topic? What's your sign? So I'm a Scorpio. It is Scorpio season soon. I
Is that
think,
like November?
yeah.
Okay, I think I'm a Scorpio.
November babies. Woo!
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pat, Corey, you have to remind me. I already forgot.
I'm the very first of the zodiacs, the Aries.
Aries. All right.
Well, I'm the second half of November, so I'm a Sagittarius.
If anyone would ask me what any of that means, I don't know, but I just think it's cool.
I think
All right,
Sagittarius is a centaur.
Centaur, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
All
I
right.
do
Anyway,
remember being like kind of, kind of happy that I was like, oh, scorpions are, that's a cool symbol, cool creature.
yeah.
I'm not, it's better than like a pig or rat or something.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if what you are for the Chinese zodiac, but I'm the year of the dragon. So I'm like, cool, I'm a
Yeah.
dragon and a Scorpio. Even though my personality is like so introverted, it's not even funny.
Yeah. You're just like a boss creature in every video game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a tiger.
Tiger.
Um,
I'm a pig.
Pig
Sorry,
is
Pat.
very, very lucky in Chinese culture. Don't discount yourself.
Lucky and generous.
Yes. Speaking of generous, since there are a lot more questions, I'll just skip to one more. Let me pick one. Who's the superior Mario brother, Mario or Luigi?
I think Luigi is kind of unambiguously. He's taller. He can jump higher.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like the better choice if you're playing most of the Mario games. He's like kind of the easy mode.
He can stay. You picked the right Mario brother.
I was going to say,
Yep.
there you have it. It's just unequivocally Luigi.
Yeah, I mean he has a lot of like self-esteem issues, but
Don't we all?
You know what?
but yeah, that's fine. You know, he's
After
still
playing Luigi 3 or Mansions 3, I understand why he has those self-esteem issues. Mario was a jerk in that game.
yeah. Mario is overrated, and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like Luigi's very relatable. Anyway, even though I can't jump that high. But
I think
goals.
Mario has pretty much no character at all. He's just like a robot that is always perfect um and,
Yep.
and in a good mood and doing the right thing, and I don't know, it just seems sketchy.
Yeah. Something off about him.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're keeping an eye on you, Mario.
Mm.
All right. Well, thanks for participating in the gauntlet. Let's dive right into these juicy listener questions. First one's from our guy, Ed. Hey, Ed, we love you from Nintendo Power Block. It was great to meet you at PAX West. I wanted to ask you, were you inspired by Flash games from the early 2000s, games like Cave Story and Alien Hominid for designing Animal well, or do you think the history of Flash games should be examined to gamers of today? Corey, can you translate what does that last sentence mean?
I think Ed wants to know if you were just inspired by Flash games and if they should make some sort of like historical comeback into the context. I don't know. I stopped speaking Ed a long time ago.
Yeah, so the Flash thing is very interesting because it was a little bit before my time in terms of game development. I started programming games, I think, kind of as Flash was dying in like, I don't know, the early 2010s. And the iPad had just come out and it wasn't supporting Flash. And I did learn Flash because I was like, oh, this is what game developers use. And by the time I got like good at it, and I made like one game for an internship I had at the time at a school. And then pretty much everyone just switched to using Unity. And then I think, yeah, I don't have a ton of like really fuzzy feelings for like older Flash games. I feel like I still played most games on console. I do love Cave Story, but I played that on Steam, and that was a very influential and beloved game for me. But yeah, it's kind of sad that a lot of these Flash games aren't accessible anymore. They were like, it was like one of the first platforms to kind of get eradicated from like gaming history, and I'm worried that it'll like sort of be the precedent for other platforms in the future as servers get shut down and stuff.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Wii U in a weird way, where like all when that store shut down, it lost like something like 12% of all the games on there just aren't available anymore. And that there was a YouTuber who went and purchased every single game on the eShop and downloaded it to a hard drive and sent it to the National Video Game History Museum.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and especially like there's Nintendo like 3DS and Wii U games, like all like the hardware is weird, so they're like they have a touch screen and you can't really emulate them exactly. Having dual screens, it's it's a weird situation.
Yeah, it's what a weird era for Nintendo. Because it's also going to be harder to port those games over someday when they inevitably try to sell us those games again for $60 or $70 or whatever. But I think that recent Castlevania collection that just came out probably did it the best way, where they have the screen side by side instead of up and down.
And they also adjusted it so that you don't need the touch controls. You can use the thumbstick to move around the cursor. Because one of the games had you make a sigil to clean out the boss or finish off the boss.
Yeah,
I'm still that collection's definitely on my list. I still have to finish Air of Sorrow from the last Castlevania collection. I was playing through them all.
All right.
There it is. Looks
Yep.
so nice.
Did you order that like 2 years ago, Pat?
Yes, I did. And it came this year. Just like I ordered the DS one this year, and it's probably coming in 2 years later. I look forward to it.
Do they show you the crazy DS box art for Dawn of Sorrow? Remember, it's like a box within a box. It was like the value edition or something.
That box was weird because it had it presented itself like a collector's edition, but it wasn't. And
I think it's like one of the most infamously bad box arts ever made. We're like,
and then
right up there with like Mega Man 1.
Yeah. The Game Boy Advance ones are the most interesting because they're so dark, because the Game Boy Advance doesn't have a backlight, and they developed it on kits that had backlights.
Here it is. I'll post it in the chat.
Those Game Boy Advance ones.
Yes.
Great.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah. The early ones are so blown out.
Yeah.
The colors are crazy.
Yeah. Oh, good times though.
Well, they had one job. Anyway. 5 Pebbles from X, Twitter, whatever. What did you enjoy working on the most when making Animal Well?
It's a kind of a hard question to answer, because I did like most of the development. I think maybe the programming and the engine development was probably the most fun and like just purely satisfying, and it felt more like I was able to like complete systems and see the results, and versus when you're doing level design or making art, it kind of feels like you're making very like linear, like incremental progress, where I'm just like, I just have to make a ton of stuff, and I'm going to do them one at a time, and today I'm going to make one thing and tomorrow I'll make another thing. And it's like, versus the programming where it's like I can make a physics system or something, and then when it's done, it affects like the whole game, and it feels like the game gets like multiplied in sort of quality versus just like incrementally added to. So I think that's probably my favorite thing, but I like all parts of it.
Speaking of making things, is there a particular puzzle that took you perhaps the longest to design, or the most complex, perhaps? Or types of puzzles?
Yeah, I think some of the really spoilery end game puzzles did
Mm.
take a long time to really think through. Um, it was also kind of getting towards the end of development, and I felt like typically puzzle ideas like come to me almost kind of randomly, because I worked on it for like 7 years, so I was happy if I came up with a cool idea like once a month or something while I was just like walking to lunch. And but towards the end of development, it's like, okay, I need like so many more good ideas that all need to like fit together, but now I need to kind of just really sit here and just think very hard and kind of like force it out. um but so yeah, I think just kind of finishing the game was the hardest part. And I don't know if those puzzles were particularly more complicated, but probably because they were the last ones I did, they felt the hardest.
Gotcha. All right, and that was from Andre R from X. And actually, I think one of our next person's questions, because she had a couple questions, fits in pretty well. AK Munger from Discord, a good friend of ours. So speaking of you working on it for so long and you have, ideas and puzzles that just pop in your head over the time, given the fact that you worked on Animal Well for 7 years, she asks, did you take blocks of time off? Did you work on other projects concurrently? Maybe tell us just a little bit more of what it's like to work on one particular game for that period of time.
Yeah, I think the I took less time off as development like got closer towards the end. During the first couple of years, there was like 3 month periods where I just didn't work on the game at all because I just had other things going on in my life. And I also had a day job for the majority of it. So
Mm.
but I never really had another project that I worked on. It was always Animal Well. And I've seen that. I was a little like worried about that because I've seen a lot of developers like go through this pattern where they'll like start a prototype and it's really promising, and then they'll like post it on Twitter and get people excited, but then they'll kind of get the dopamine rush of getting the validation, and then they'll just like move on to another thing, and then they'll kind of just like um, ping pong between all these little mini side projects, and there's a risk of them not getting done. So I didn't want to do game jams or side games. I'm like, I really just want to make one game, so I'm going to try to really focus all of my free mental energy on it when I can.
Was there ever a point where you thought puzzles were a great idea, but then either A, you thought, well, maybe this isn't going to work for this game in particular, or B, you just said, I have to stop adding stuff to this game? Because there's a lot in here that, I mean, you could have probably split this into 3 separate games and people would have bought them all because there's so much here.
Yeah, there's a few that I feel like towards the end, that were just like so crazy that I'm like, I can't. Like this will add months to development. I need to release this, and maybe I won't say what they are because I might use them in the future. But that was like one category of things that got cut, and there was only a couple of things like that. And then there were some puzzles that I was excited about, but then when I really thought about how they would be solved, it sounded actually maybe kind of tedious. There was one idea I had where I was going to hide. I was kind of inspired by like the old like Mortal Kombat games with the combat codes that you'd find. They'd be like they'd be like leaked to the press, or they'd be in other Midway arcade games, and you'd like enter them, and you'd get like a little secret in the game where you unlock a new like cheat or mode. I was like, oh, there could be one of those for every egg in the game. And so I was thinking every egg would have like a code associated with it. And it would like unlock
Tunic did that. Don't do that.
And they'd all be outside the game. And then I was thinking about, I was like, okay, somebody's just going to end up putting together a guide for all these, and they're just going to sit there and enter like 64 codes that are all like, I don't know, eight directions long. And I'm like, okay, that's 64 times 8. So someone's just going to sit there and like one after the other, just like type these all in, and it's going to take them like hours to do. So I decided like, okay, maybe I could do something. I don't have to do that.
It's a cool idea though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My controller thanks you for you not doing that. I seriously, Tunic, like that was probably in my opinion one of the worst things about Tunic was at the end of the game it all became directional puzzles trying to create like directions using the D-pad, and one, it absolutely hurt my thumb, and it's just you had to do it so precise that if you didn't, you had to chain it again, and I think one of those chains was like over 60 inputs long.
Mm.
Like it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I am still a little guilty of that, and but not really in the base game. I tried to keep everything like not lean on that too much, and I knew like that was a big part of Tunic's design, so I didn't want to sort of follow in its footsteps too deliberately.
So Metroidvanias, was this just like a genre that you love and you just wanted to make a game within it with these kind of crazy puzzles? Because I mean, a lot of times puzzles, like, not all of them obviously, but some of them kind of remind me of Zelda puzzles, and I as I've been playing through it, I've been thinking, well, what if you made a Zelda style game like this, and put some of these puzzles in a area like that? Or are you just like, I don't want to say you're not interested in doing that, but is this just like something that you haven't thought about yet? Or
I think I wasn't really thinking of a particular genre when I was developing the game, but that being said, I do probably like Metroidvanias more than anything else. I love Zelda also, so I think I was just kind of drawing from all the games I liked throughout my life, and they happen to be a lot of kind of open-ended exploration games, and I think I just like exploring in games in general. I want to be able to pick a direction and go in it and like have the game, support that. And, I want the game mechanics to be like tactile and interesting. And so I didn't really want to have any kind of like RPG stat system or anything. I wanted everything to be like feel physical, what you're doing, and kind of make sense. So yeah, I was always surprised that people don't call Zelda a Metroidvania, because to me it feels like it has the same exact structure. So maybe because it's not 2D or whatever, but also I think like as soon as you start trying to come up with rules for what a genre is, it's kind of a pointless conversation to have.
Especially these days, the genres just kind of all blend together,
I typically like try to not think about it, because I think it can kind of limit your creativity.
I mean, I think genres exist now just as like a vague, oh, we got to explain to this guy, like, this isn't like a maze you have to walk through. You actually just go in and hack and slash stuff or whatever. But at the end of the day, everything's like, oh, this is an adventure game with RPG elements and hint of Metroidvania with some brawler in it. I'm like, I don't care, just make it fun.
Yeah, no, I think it's like maybe it's useful for marketing or people like talking to their friends and trying to like describe a game. But I think if you're like on the creative side and you're making the game, it's like it's kind of a trap.
And kind of boxes you into one kind of set of rules.
Yeah, exactly.
The way I see it. Yeah. So I'm very curious, like the whole concept behind Animal Well, like what made you like come up with this concept? Like have this exploratory Metroidvania, but then also like have all these animals like just kind of in the game. Like what kind of brought that about?
Yeah, and picking the animals, yes.
Yeah, it's I don't have like a really concise answer for it. It's kind of just like a big like jambalaya of stuff that I was doing. I started out like making the game's engine, and I was like, I know I want to make like kind of like a 2D pixel art exploration kind of Metroidvania game. That was just like the broadest idea in my head that I had. And as I was setting things up, I was kind of just kind of had to make like test assets to just make sure that okay, can I draw tiles on a screen that you can walk on, and was just kind of drawing things that maybe you would see in a Zelda dungeon or Castlevania or something. Just kind of a lot of overgrown mossy bricks and fences, and I don't know. That's just like what I was just finding myself drawing. I was not like writing a design document about like this is going to be the game. I was just kind of messing around. And then yeah, eventually I had to draw some sort of entities to put in the world to make sure things are in there, and just found myself wanting to draw animals instead of people. I just found they're like more relatable, and I feel like people are more sort of lenient with how they look, and I feel like people are very sensitive to like what other humans look like, and if you get that wrong, they could be like, I don't know, very unappealing or like alienate someone. But everybody likes animals, so I figured it would be safer and more fun for me to just make the game exclusively have animals. But then I also didn't really want to anthropomorphize them, and kind of wanted to keep them more in their natural form. So yeah, I just kind of stumbled into it, and then as I thought more about it, I was like, I was finding myself drawing a lot of inspiration from just like sort of the neighborhood I was living in, and there was a lot of people just would have these like kind of old sort of weather beaten like lawn ornaments of different frogs and owls and all sorts of weird animals that they just like have in their front yards or their garden. And it was just something that I don't see people like ever really talk about a lot, but it's pretty ubiquitous. So I was like, what is the mythology that connects all these weird statues that are kind of neglected? And that sort of guided my sort of vision of what the world was after that. It slowly like came into focus and over the years.
Very nice. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is all right. I'm ready for this. Hope you're ready for
no.
this. From Nas, ask him about his guide on climbing wet trees. Go.
All right. So climbing wet trees is a YouTube video that I posted on the internet in 2006, I think. So how long ago was that? Like 18 years ago. I was in high school. It was for my video like broadcast class. That was an elective I was taking, and I was getting into like filmmaking and video making, and it was a student assignment I had to do. And in the video, I put on a wetsuit and I gave a tutorial on how to climb trees. It was supposed to just be like how to climb trees, but it rained that day, so all the trees are wet. And then I had to call it how to climb wet trees. But it's very stupid, but maybe you'll enjoy it. I think if you actually look it up on YouTube, the audio is just completely muted because I put some like copyrighted songs in there that so
Whoops.
YouTube's policy back then was just like, oh, our algorithm detected like a copyright violation, we're just going to mute the audio. But there is a link to Vimeo where you can watch it. Vimeo doesn't care, apparently.
Nobody goes to Vimeo, that's why.
Yeah. They're like, oh, you can, we won't mute it, you can just watch it here. But so Vimeo is like the official site hosting that video. But it got kind of discovered by the Animal Well Discord community a few years ago before launch, because we were doing ARGs, and we kind of left it a little too open-ended where we're like, puzzles can be anywhere, and because we put some puzzles in some of the blog posts and trailers we did related to the game, and then they really like took that as an invitation to just start Googling my name and digging through like my entire internet presence since the beginning of time, and thinking that maybe I planted some clues to Animal Well ARGs like decades earlier. It was very flattering that they thought I could like mastermind some plot like this throughout my whole life, but that was not the case. But they found this climbing wet trees video, and now it's kind of like an underground sort of
Inside joke or
Mm.
reference. Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't that funny how things from a long time ago can come back? And I bet you have people scouring that, like, oh, what's that supposed to mean?
It's just funny that the video is pretty stupid. So any amount of rewatching that or watching any detail is it's just
You should
funny to
almost
me.
make that an Easter egg in your next game. Just kind of like how what game was it that had? No, it was the Fallout TV show where they had a card with with an actual phone number, and you call it, and it's like someone screaming at you.
Oh my god.
You should like have like a secret where you like somehow hide like the video link into your game, and then when people like check it out, it brings up this how to climb with trees.
Well, I'll keep it in mind.
Hmm. That's a freebie.
Thank you.
Oh, good times. It could have gone the other way though. At least it wasn't a negative experience. People started digging into
Oh,
who you were.
Mhm.
my parents always said, never record or post anything that you might not want to come back.
Yeah, luckily I'm not a very like online person, or at least
Mhm.
for a long time haven't been. So you can go through my entire like Twitter history within like a minute or two and scroll all the way back to like 2009, and it doesn't take that long to see it all.
A good thing, in my
So
opinion.
yeah, I feel like it's kind of just a giant liability anytime you want to like say something on the internet,
Hmm.
and it's just best to not. So the fact that what they did find was from 2006, I think just shows that there really wasn't much to like look through.
Well, it has been raining today, so I think what I'll do after work, I'll watch that video and give that a shot and let you know how it goes.
Yeah,
Gosh,
yeah, put it to use.
you see an
So,
Instagram story
yeah.
later of Stephanie in the hospital with like a broken
Exactly.
thing.
We'll put in a disclaimer now. You cannot sue Billy if some
Good.
technique doesn't work.
No.
Do not try this at home.
No, I think the video does have a disclaimer in it because
Okay.
it's like as a joke, because I thought it would be funny to like parody like the sort of the medication commercials that have those like
Yep.
Mhm.
the like 2 paragraphs of like legalese that they like recite like at like 10x speed
Yep.
really quickly.
I recognize that. Yep.
Climbing wood trees can cause death.
Yeah.
Consult your doctor first.
Gosh.
Well, I think we covered a bulk of the questions, and I just want to open up to kind of anything else we want to chit chat about. I kind of wanted to quickly pick your brain about PAX West and your experience, but is there anything else, Pat or Corey, that you wanted to talk about?
I guess my only thing is like, now that you are this massively successful game developer, how's that changed your life, knowing that like, oh my gosh, this is like one of the better selling indies of the year, and people have really attached themselves to it, and it's clearly built some sort of like really, at least, positive community around like the spoiler situation and everything. It almost reminds me of like the Souls community in that way. It's like, don't spoil anything, but like how is that success like really, have you been able to accept it yet, that you're just like, this has become super successful?
It's been like very cool, but I don't think it's really like sunk in yet, because my life doesn't feel that different, I guess. There are times where I'm like, I'll just like watch somebody who was streaming the game, and it's just like some random person, and there's like new like Twitch streams like every day that like get uploaded to YouTube, and it's weird that you can just Google Animal Well and just have an almost like endless supply of
Hmm.
things to watch about it, people like playing the game, and uh, just knowing that that's like happening in the background of my life. This thing I made is like there's probably like there's definitely people playing it like right now, and uh, they're like having thoughts about the game. So yeah, it's kind of it's kind of like just looking up at the stars and thinking about how like there's millions of planets in the like in the galaxy, where it's just like, oh, that's kind of that's weird if I think about it, but then like on a moment to moment basis, you're just like being a normal person and pouring your cup of coffee and uh I don't know, reading your email or whatever. So yeah, it's still taking time to sink in. It's been just really amazing whenever I do think about it. And yeah, I just it doesn't feel like it's like my game. It still feels like I'm when I look stuff up about it, it feels like I'm just like reading about something like someone else made. So so yeah, and
Yeah,
then I don't know. I still didn't like kind of my routine hasn't changed that much. I just I've been still doing work and living in the same place and have the same people in my life and but I'm not stressed about the future, so I'm less stressed out, which is great.
Nice.
Uh, and yeah, I don't know. It's just like I was so heads down for such a long time, and I was just like my entire focus in life was getting the game done and making sure like the launch went okay, um and I think I was kind of just like shut off from every other like thought and like influence in my life, and so now that game's out, I feel like my like brain was like knotted up so tightly that I'm like slowly like picking it apart and like relaxing back to being a normal person to like reflect on everything that's happened. So yeah, it's 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 been weird, but in a very good way.
no, it's got to be a great feeling to know that something that you put a lot of time creating, like, means so much to a lot of people. Like, not
Yeah,
many people get to have that, like, that feeling, and I gotta imagine it's like got to be one of the best ones in the world.
yeah. The launch day specifically, was was just like was like such a blur. I feel like I just just watched all like the reviews come in like pretty quickly because they're all like embargoed and I guess I feel like they're all just like scheduled to post at the same time and it was just like shocking to see how good they were. I was not expecting that and the I didn't even like check the Steam sales for like the first 8 hours or something. I was just like I don't even want to know. I'm like already overstimulated by just the like the amount of people like posting articles about it and
Hmm.
uh yeah, it just feels like I was like on um I was like I was like drunk or something. And then you're just like, what just happened? I don't, yeah, it's very hard to describe. Where like I didn't really eat the whole day until like 5 o'clock where I was like, okay, I need to eat dinner. I've just been staring at the computer this whole time and yeah, I think my body was just like sustained like off of adrenaline pretty much this whole time. Just um, but yeah, it was amazing. Probably the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. And and yeah, I'm very very grateful to be able to like experience that in my life.
Awesome. Well, actually, we're kind of coming up against time, so I think we'll start wrapping it up shortly. I just gotta run a few housekeeping things, so bear with me, everyone. Corey's much better at this than I am. If you want to support the Boss Rush podcast and the Boss Rush Network, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/. Boss Rush Network at the tier that's right for you, earning the perks such as early and ad-free access to this and other podcasts, exclusive access to spotlight interview access threads, voting rights, and video game book club, and more. That's patreon.com/Boss Rush Network. As always, your listenership and viewership is always enough for us. And if you're watching the video on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and leave us a thumbs up or a comment. If you're listening on podcast services like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and review. And of course, check out the merch on TeePublic, where we have over 50 designs because of yours truly, Corey, who's designed them. And as always, you can check out all our content, reviews, articles, and more on bossrush.net. Speaking of acting like a drug commercial, trying to get all that out in one breath.
We'll just have to speed it up.
Mhm.
You should. It would be pretty funny.
Pat, Corey, thank you for joining me on this. Is a very exciting interview, and Billy, you especially. Thank you for your time. It's so much fun catching up with you and chatting. Wish you continued success on Animal Well, and we'll be paying very close attention to the Game Awards later this year.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you for having me. And it was, it's always nice to run into you guys at PAX and stuff. So, yeah,
Happy
to be here.
We'll be pulling for you for sure at the Game Awards.
Oh, thank you.
We play a lot of indie games, so we know what we're talking about when we say yours is definitely one of the best ones of 2024.
It's been a good year. I've been enjoying a lot of them right now. I'm playing UFO 50 right now.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
Really good.
That's on my list.
I've only played 2 of the games in it. I'm just going one by one, and the second one I'm playing is amazing. So I'm trying.
Nice. Yeah, that's next on my list. I still need to finish Farewell North. I know that came out a little while ago, but I'm really stubborn about trying to finish games before starting another one, because then I'll stop, get lost, go back. I want to give each game like its time,
Yeah, I try to do the same.
Right.
It's you could get lost.
Absolutely. Speaking of lost, let's get lost and out of here and into the weekend. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to our wonderful listeners. We love you. Goodbye.
If you want to see how you can become a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/BossRushNetwork. The Patreon producers for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, Matthew Keel, and Todd Oxtra. Thanks for your continued support of the Boss Rush Network.